You're listening to Two Beers Until Phrónēsis, a philosophy podcast for students, graduates, and anyone else interested in ideas. Alongside regular guests and friends, we discuss some of life's big questions over a few beers. Enjoy.
So we recently did an episode called Pandemic Culture, but you don't have to have listened to that because we haven't either. So
I listened to it.
Oh, thank you, Zach. Just wanted to pick up on one or two things from that, but mostly just talk about some new stuff. Basically just our reaction to what's happening, maybe some basic ethical ideas. Like, I'm interested in chatting with you guys about the social impact, really, of the whole coronavirus, and got a few thoughts on like trends and phenomena that have appeared in the last week or two. Firstly, I just want to get a sense of how everyone is, because like last time I was like really upbeat. I was getting shit done. I was gardening, been recording music and stuff. Like, I finished all that, and I'd say it is kind of getting to me now. You hit that wall, right, where you can't just continue living as you did. You can't just like finish the backlog of jobs you had and the projects and adding more housework and Netflix to the old structure of your day. You've got to like invent new things. You hit that wall where you have to radically change your lifestyle and adapt. And I think I've just fucking hit that wall. But yeah, how's everyone else?
I'd say I'm one of the very, very lucky ones at the moment. Yeah. Top 1%, if you could even quantify it.
Yeah, it's all right for you. You're still working, so.
Running out of, activities.
What's it like on the outside, Zach? Are the birds still there? I don't know. For me, like, I think I'm less content than I was when we last spoke about it, like probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. But I'm more sort of accepting of it. Like, there's still a lot of uncertainty, but I've just kind of got into a bit of like a regimented routine.
It's become normal.
Yeah, pretty much in a nutshell. Like, I'm not really, obviously it's on my mind, when are they going to, start easing restrictions? But I've just sort of accepted this is how it is. And like, there's less stress on me from that perspective, but it's very samey. I'm a person who likes to be outdoors a lot and do stuff, quite active. And that's pretty tough when you're effectively confined to what for me is a very small space.
It's going to be tough because, we're all social creatures at the end of the day. We all have to have, it's not like hunter-gatherer biological determinism kind of shit. It's, we're supposed to have contact to some degree relative to our personality type.
Yeah.
Verbal communication, eye contact. I don't know. It might be a comfort for some people that, if you are actually feeling lonely, it's science. It's not unusual. It's literally an uphill battle with human nature. If you suppress negative feelings, just like, oh, come on, I just need to get on with it. Like, this is gonna affect some people to some degree. Like, we need fresh air and shit. It's kind of weird to think we don't.
Yeah, for sure. Just to echo, what you say, there is neurological stimulus that humans need in terms of interacting with each other, and like, this is not how we're supposed to be living at the moment. We can't really do this long term. I think like governments are very well aware of that, and probably get into it in more detail later, but there's a delicate balance you've got to strike between literally saving lives, but also like there's serious long-term effects.
Yeah. Sam, what's your opinion?
What and how I'm doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right at the moment, to be honest. I think you absolutely nailed it when you said about having tasks to do. I was one of the brave few who listened back to the first podcast.
Oh, nice.
Oh, gee.
It's clear when you were going like, oh yeah, I just got loads of things to do. Like, I've got, like you say about recording music, like you're saying about gardening. And I think, like we talked about in the Flow podcast, spoilers, teaser trailer, it is just like a case of just finding things to do. But like Joe said, just being accepting. And that was one of the things that I kind of found quite strange, is how well people have accepted this. Because, and I find that kind of weird. And I was thinking the other day about, I know it's a bit of a dramatic conclusion, but like when they have like dictatorships and they impose curfews, and then you look at someone like, I'm currently looking at like Iraq and sort of the lead up to the Iraq war. And you imagine like if they came in and went, oh yeah, you're not allowed to go outside at all between these hours, there'd be massive uproar. You could never imagine that. And yet the government just goes, okay, well, you can't do this. And everyone's kind of going along with it, but there isn't too much trouble and people are mostly going with it.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's weird, like Joe was saying, how quickly that becomes the new normal. So I think that hit like last week where I was just going, oh wait, this isn't weird anymore. This is now just accepted and sort of commonplace, if that makes sense. Like it's routine.
Yeah, I think one thing I've noticed for sure is there's certainly like a narrative shift towards collectivism rather than individualism as a result of all these policies. Just by imposing the policies, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it is for the best, but it's just become very apparent that the way people are talking through the little kind of exposure we get to the media and stuff, people are talking about we's rather than I's, especially where health is concerned. And like I say, that is for the best. I mentioned the last podcast about homelessness, and I think this is where it's quite indicative. If you think from an individualist perspective, it's obviously fucking horrible to be a rough sleeper, but now I think that this collectivist mindset has taken over for the first time. There's actually a reason to house people, which is fucking strange. Why wasn't it before? And I think the reason for that is the adoption of this collectivist mindset is because they're a liability now. And it was in the collective interest.
A wonderful miracle has happened.
Yeah. And it's, I just think, how fucked is that? That it took viewing this collectively to have that happen. Why was the individualist way of looking at it not enough? I think people are also abandoning this belief that you can believe what you like. It's now become you believe what helps.
Authoritarianism has its pros and cons, as does libertarianism as well. Just trying to, individually and collectively find that common ground. Naturally, as a society, we want to cooperate with each other in mind.
Governments and people are well aware of all these issues. I know I was slagging off the sort of militarized narrative last time.
Well, I agree.
Yeah, I just want to throw in my support that I do hate the fact that the phrase sacrifice and the fight against the coronavirus keeps coming up, because that's just the way that the media is sort of preparing us for the fact that people in hospitals are going to be fucking dying. I think that's horrible. I think that's really weird.
Yeah, they likened the coronavirus to a mugger the other day. It's like, we would all jump on him if it was a mug.
Where was that?
I think that was Bojo, yeah.
It's funny how that seems to help people, imagining it as something you can punch or shoot. It's just very strange. We need to transform it into something tangible for people to get their heads around it. But yeah, I think everyone's otherwise relatively level-headed. Are you guys drinking a lot, or because I noticed this going around? Fucking
he says desperately.
Are you drinking?
Are you guys drinking as well? So that I can. I'm going to say no. Make you feel worse, mate.
Well, Wednesday, Muirland.
I'd say initially in the lockdown, I wasn't like really drinking much. I've started to just get stuff in now because I'm just really fucking bored. And I think it's kind of, you're not really drinking on your own if you're drinking like chatting to people. And
yeah, I think you're right.
And the other thing is, when the pubs do open, I don't want to be going back having one pint being on the floor. So I need to keep that going.
Yeah, all for the big picture, mate. It's for your health.
Yeah, it's training.
Yeah, it is training.
I don't want to get out of practice. You've got to keep it up.
Acclimatization of hitting the boozer.
I think the large majority of people, I think they're doing it on a more regular basis, but less intensely than they were. I certainly am.
Yeah.
None of us are getting smashed, right?
Not yet.
Not as regularly as we were. No, I haven't yet. I haven't been drunk yet. I think the most I had in one sitting was 4 beers.
That's not massive, man.
No. Like I'm drinking less because I'm not in that pub environment anymore.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Before the lockdown, I was actually thinking, oh shit, I really need to cut down my drinking, but I don't know how because I'm surrounded by booze. But now, I think it's because you normally drink. It's like a spur of the moment thing, isn't it? Psychologically, it's like you're in the bar. Someone says, "Do you want a pint, mate?" And you go, "Oh, go on then, lad, I'll have one."
Well, it's always environment, isn't it? So what they talk about in like AA and shit is like you'll go past like a petrol station where you used to get cans of Foster's from, then you'll be like, "Oh, well, I bought the petrol, and now the next step is to do the other thing in the environment."
Other artisanal brews are available.
Yeah, only Foster's, mate.
You get that strong sense. You get it most intensely when you're actually in the bar, in the environment. But if you're just looking at cans of beer in Aldi, I don't know. I just go, I'll just have a few, and then I go home and I'm like, oh, I've got other things to drink, but I don't really want to drink them. Like, I don't normally drink spirits unless it's really an occasion. So, I've got a few spirits tucked away, but yeah, just like, I don't know, a beer or two.
I think that's just advertising, probably. Like, if you walk into a pub, you'll probably know better than me. I'm sure there's all sorts of unconscious subliminal triggers to get you to drink.
Yeah, POSs, yeah.
And the pork scratchings, mate.
and the fact that it's a pub, isn't it? It's literally a room you've gone to with other people to drink. And so you've already like decided you're going to drink by the time you go in there because you're going to pub.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Committed to it, yeah. Whilst there's very little of that scenario able to happen under lockdown. People are drinking on Zoom and Discord and stuff, but it's not quite the same.
It's not the same. You don't get as many it's like even doing this podcast now sort of virtually, you don't get all the little sort of body language cues and like non-verbal cues you get. So you're just missing out on a big chunk of communication. So you just get like the vocal cues and things like that. And I imagine that's like a huge part of like social interaction. People will be like, oh shit, I didn't realize that was missing when they go like to things like the pub.
I think it's going to be bizarre when like, obviously the whole easing restrictions will be gradual, but to what extent it is from like the point now to the point being in a crowded pub again, that's going to feel very strange.
Well, have you heard about the new restrictions that they're considering?
No, go on.
3 pints per pub.
What, 3 pints per person per pub? Why?
They don't want everybody flocking in or staying too long.
Well, yeah, because otherwise you're going to have everyone on a fucking session, aren't they?
Of course, that's going to encourage.
Well, yeah, that's just giving me pub crawls, isn't it?
I think they don't want people to stay in one place and then get too drunk and then flout like social distancing rules and things.
That's an interesting take, but like even in supermarkets, people aren't really obeying. In my experience, a lot of people are not obeying social distancing.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah,
often because they can't actually, because supermarkets are not built for social distancing, obviously, as they are.
I get all these fuckers walking into me.
Right, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
all the time. It's like, oh, fuck off. Can't wait.
Just lead them, need some big scene. Just go.
Yeah.
I saw a couple of guys just kind of looking at every single steak that was available on the top end of the meat aisle. It moved.
No.
Have you ever had this happen to you where like you're walking down an aisle and someone's walking down the aisle, or like they turn the corner and they look at you with like an abject fear, like you're a fucking monster, and then like run away? I've had that. Like, I don't know if that's just because I haven't been washing for like the last week, or just like the social distancing.
It could be a byproduct.
I can't find any flour anywhere.
Flour?
Middle class massacre, mate. That's what's going on. Everyone's just baking their own bread.
Chop some flowers and chuck them in, mate. That'll do. Grind up some flowers.
Do you know why that is? That you can't get any flour?
There's trouble up mill.
Because like apparently my dad told me this today, and I was like, wow, that's fucking useless information. I'm never going to use that. But I'm using it already.
On a podcast?
Yeah, exactly. Apparently 9% of flour goes to like big bakers. And then the reason why they can't get it out to supermarkets is because they haven't got enough like bagging facilities to put it in 1 kilogram bags. So they're still doing bits with the flour. They just haven't got enough like actual bags to put in.
You're right. That was useless information.
That was really boring. Thanks, Sam.
Feel free to edit that out.
Next question. Do you guys feel more connected to your communities?
No.
Define communities.
No, you.
Oh shit! Uno reverse.
I guess all this fucking clapping stuff is part of that.
Is anyone else just feeling like it's really, really like patronising to people that actually work in the NHS?
Well, I know a lot of people in the NHS that actually are on board with it and really appreciate it.
I just think it's like, have you ever read Bonfires of Vanities? Tom Wolfe, and he goes to like Woodstock and he talks about people whooping and how it's like he has this fucking amazing paragraph where he talks about how like people whooping is like it's like the sign of their ego, just like screaming like me as loud as you can. And you hear that sometimes when it's like people clapping, and you hear people like clapping's awesome. Clapping's like respectful. You actually like, I think it's a good thing to do. But then you hear people go, woo, yeah, woo, and like whistling and shit and banging like pots. And then suddenly that's not about paying respect. That's just about you drawing attention to yourself.
Well, it can then become quite tribalistic sometimes.
I think it's just people. It just ends up being like either you're trying to draw attention to yourself or you're virtue signaling, and you end up with this like weird thing of no one wants to be the first one to stop clapping. It's not like a minute silence.
There's a judgment stuff. Yeah, and I do agree. Like a vigil or something would be a lot more appropriate. You know, whooping whilst people are dying is kind of
it's just that goes across just completely wrong. I think that's just like, it's not. I get it. It's supposed to be a positive celebration of people doing it, but also it just seems wrong when you think about people that are dying. And there's people banging saucepans, going woohoo and like whistling, and you're like, well, it's not affecting you.
I think it certainly can be wrong, but I think it's a matter of intention, which you can't judge externally. But I think it is a nice effect when it fills the air for 10 minutes straight. It's such a loud and like full sounding affair, right? It's like lots of different noises occupying a really rich space rather than just like dispersed thin claps and things. You know what I mean? The point is to make noise so that people can hear it.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. And also, like, you're not reflecting. I think minute silence is just fucking amazing. Whenever you go to like a minute silence or like Armistice Day or something, and you actually just think about it for a minute, it's just got a crazy powerful sense as like everything stops and you actually do think.
You still got the same sense of judgment though, right? You like when some cunt, we did it in the pub, and some cunt walked in and was just like trying to order a drink, and the fucking hell, the stairs, mate.
I'm not gonna lie, that is actually like fucking, that's grounds for like hands on. Do you know what I mean? If someone's just like, if someone just walks in during a minute silence and just goes, "Oh mate, I'll have a fucking pint of cider with a shot of black in it," like that's actually like grounds for mob mentality.
I wouldn't go that far, but I did join in the stairs.
But yeah, that stare is like a sort of a non-verbal cue from like a judgment from the entire fucking environment around him, just letting him know that behavior is not cool.
There's an interesting discussion at work about the minute silence, because like the policy they ruled on was that if you're in a call center, you can invite the customer you're speaking to join you in the silence, but if they decline, then you're supposed to continue with the call. There's a bit of like, is that really the right thing to do, or should you be able to, as an individual, just say, actually, like, I'm going to have to put you on hold for a minute?
That is absolute fucking disrespect, and that should never be allowed. You should never.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that I think trumps commercialism.
100%.
You know, what's more important, reflection and respect, or I mean, it is your choice. I think it should be up to people to make choices and policies around these things. But I would strongly argue in favor of, you know, commercialism comes second to this kind of shit. This kind of shit matters a lot more.
Yeah, I think so too. You weren't the only one to feel that way. Trust me.
I imagine whoever proposed the idea of, no, we need to make more sales, did not get the reaction they were looking for.
He's just in a room being stared at him.
Yeah, legit. He's a psycho, mate. Or you just go like, hey, look, the minute silence is about to happen. This might be slightly awkward, but we're going to like honor this. I'll talk to you after this minute. Like, Jimmy, it's literally a minute.
No one could have a legitimate complaint about that.
I actually think that would create more business. If somebody was on the phone to me, I'd be like, oh, this company, you know, they've got their head
legit. Yeah, they're like a moral business, or a business run by moral people.
Oh, yeah, that's a better way of saying it.
Yeah, maybe, moral business. These see my instant fucking YouTube, but they're a moral mid-sentence.
Do you guys have any opinions on Captain Tom Moore? That old geezer that did walk around.
Absolute legitimate fucking gangster, mate. Just puts everyone else to shame. Just makes you feel like a piece of shit.
So he walked, was it 100 laps around his garden? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, he raised £35 million.
Fantastic. That's a lot of money.
I mean, he shouldn't have to.
Well, yeah. He definitely shouldn't have to. But it's just that's just a display of his dedication to like a lifetime of service, isn't it? The fact that he has been in the armed forces for that long, was in World War II, and is now going, well, there is actually, so I'm just choking to death from fucking Corona. And he's now going, there is actually like, there's a massive crisis. What can I do at 100? What's the max I can do? What is my...
Yeah, still wants to serve.
Yeah. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to do the fucking crossword. He's like 100 years old. Doing 100 laps is actually pretty fucking intense.
It's a sterling effort, and the feel-good factor for donating with that kind of thing must be pretty huge.
Yeah,
so I expect that's part of the reason why.
He only wanted to raise a little bit at first, and he fucking smashed it. He had a flyover the other day from the RAF.
Fucking, I mean, people just like to rally around a good story with a good story. Really, I think in times like these, in particular,
that's certainly one story I cannot be cynical about.
No,
that is
no way. Yeah,
yeah, that is just fucking uplifting. And I totally understand why the media's rallied around the guy. It's fucking great.
It was.
Did he release a song as well?
Oh yeah, it's number 1, isn't it?
Did he?
Yeah, it's making better capital.
Yeah, well, I don't think he did, but
yeah. Is it Michael Ball? See that's one point where my cynicism fucking enters the chat when he gets rung up by Michael Ball. I'm like, oh. But fair enough. That's more when someone goes like, oh, I see there's a big story. Time to resurrect my fucking opera career from the 80s.
Yeah, you can't really knock charity, can you? Like, you can certainly put caveats on it, but like,
you can knock quite a lot of charities.
You can knock how it's being run, but fundamentally you can't really. I mean,
I think like individual actions, like one man just doing some bits, like you can't really fuck with. But as soon as it becomes like corporatized, it then loses a little bit of like what it was supposed to be doing.
Speaking of that kind of stuff, I actually had a few points about, I guess, the media in general. I think like it's so fucking weird that adverts, the way they've tried to capitalize on the event, is just really fucking sinister. Like, we're all doing our bit right now. That's why you should buy our fucking steak. It's just like,
is that like a real thing? Like,
yeah, it's confusing times for us all. We're having to adapt to new things, learn new things. There's like a montage at the same time. They've also lifted it like another stock footage.
That's what you were saying about like the moral business, isn't it? It's like when Gillette did that. I know I fucking hate it when people bring up the Gillette advert because it is like like
rabbit hole.
Like literally no one cares. I don't care. But the point,
I gotta have my tea.
yeah. But the point that everyone, I think people got a bit overzealous, but the point they're making was it's like businesses aren't moral. So you going, hey, look, we're all suffering together. Buy some fucking chips. It just doesn't gel.
No, it doesn't.
This kind of stuff, like the personalization of a corporate entity, that's been happening for some time. Like see, like there's a few accounts on Twitter that are known for it. They're like business run, but they just like reply with memes and really cringe stuff, trying to like
appeal to
people. And now they're capitalizing on this idea that we're all in it together, which we sort of are, but there's a lot of variation within that.
I mean, I don't blame them, but it's just you can't really confuse this with actual community spirit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're protecting in times like these, a lot of companies aren't doing too well. It shouldn't be a shock to anyone to say. And they're coming up with quite creative ways to ultimately protect margins and balance sheets and things like that. But the kind of front end of it looks all nice and glossy and like, oh, we're all in this together. Everyone's having a hard time. And then they're capitalizing on that kind of line to ultimately sell you something.
Yeah.
You're right, Sam. It feels off.
It's like uncanny valley, isn't it? It's like you understand that the words they are saying, you understand that they mean well, but also that's not what they really mean. You just know it's just false.
Yeah.
And it's disingenuous. If they like in my fucking dream utopia, it's like banks. I fucking hate it when banks have like they had a Lloyd's one where it was just like someone raising a horse. It was like, I can't remember. I want to say, banging. That's TSB, mate. TSB.
Same thing, basically.
But it was like someone raising a horse, and it was like, hey, we're with you all the time. We're with you to support you during lives. And you're like, well, no, you're not. You're a fucking bank.
Like, lol, 2008.
Lloyd's adverts are bare pretentious. Like they were pretty bad even before COVID, to be honest. Like
fucking awful.
I don't really know what the alternative is.
I know, but I in my dream utopia, they just say, hi, we have this account. Like, they literally just go, Lloyd's has 1% interest account. Cool.
Yeah.
That's what you get. there's the product.
So here's the pros of joining up with us. Yeah, sure. Like a real advert.
But they're selling you an idea, aren't they? Like a Mercedes-Benz, like a Mercedes-Benz advert where it shows like a guy in a fucking glass house, like putting on a fucking suit. Then he goes, Mercedes-Benz. And you're like, wow, I want to do that. That's cool.
Well, it's product differentiation.
Yeah, it's like a lifestyle brand.
Yeah, like you were saying, Joe, personalized brands are a trend. And I think also the transparent brand was also a trend.
Yeah.
And it didn't do very well. I think these things are all trends and you can't really judge them out of context. They just sort of come and go.
Yeah, the whole transparent, basic, simple brand. So in some industries it can work, but in a lot of industries you have to have some sort of USP, which is why going back to like the Lloyd's thing, for example, they're selling you like it's more than a current account. It's like a special relationship you're being sold. Which is like mostly bullshit. But I think that's extremely pretentious. And it's like sometimes I watch adverts and I'm like, I don't even know what you're trying to sell me. And that's when I just like I think the Lloyd's is probably approaching that at the minute.
Yeah.
It's only because they're such a big name that you kind of know what they are. Like if you just saw the advert of a black horse running around now, you'd be like, I don't know what I'm buying.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, because they're so successful from their practices, all they really have to do is just promote their name regularly.
Yeah, basically.
It doesn't really matter what they say. What do you guys think about celebrities, especially actors? They're really desperate to want to remain relevant.
Oh, mate.
They are all over certain radio channels at the moment. And at first, I was quite cynical of it, but then I realised, well, maybe it's just their outreach now. They need to be heard in a sense. They need that sense of validation.
They're bored as well. Let's not they're human, right? It's all about fame. Like I've seen some uplifting stuff that comes from a genuine place, and of course, like actors and stuff could be part of that. It's the other side of it where comedians and musicians. I think they're entertainers, right? This is what they do, but I think it's more just actors when they're like giving us advice or video diaries about their day or like just singing songs. It's like, we don't need you to survive this. You may as well be one of those hollow brands. It's just virtue signaling.
Are you going to talk about Gal Gadot and the fucking Imagine? That was the apex of that. Was it actually? I didn't know it was for charity, to be honest. I just thought they just did it. I thought they did it, and Gal Gadot, that really fucking triggered me if it was charity, whatever. But she just goes, I'm very philosophical at the moment, sings 20 seconds with Beatles song, and then just does like a smug smile, like, hey, you're welcome, world. I just fucking
don't worry, I'm here.
I just fucking saved you with this absolute banger of a tune.
When you're genuinely affected by poverty...
Yeah, how's I going to fix my leaky roof? Things like
exactly.
That.
Like when you're genuinely impacted by poverty or poor health, the last thing you want is some cunt in their mansion who's bored.
That's Dan Harmon said he's the fucking Rick and Morty geezer, and he said he was generally in constant fear a couple of years ago about because he lives in LA, and he's just saying like all of the homeless people just going, hey, wait a minute, there's like fucking 80,000 homeless people in LA. And there's also just like thousands of like millionaires up in massive houses on the hills. And like that civil unrest just kicking in.
I think it's worth saying that like actors in particular tend to, or some of them do, have quite massive egos.
Yeah.
So like there is something to say about that, but also the fact that a lot of people do genuinely idolize celebrities in quite a terrifying way. In my view, I like some celebrities, I dislike others, but I wouldn't say there's any that I would like, like follow to the letter.
Especially seek
and they're in a
me.
kind of position of pseudo power in that sense. I'm always just a little bit like weirded out when I see a celebrity going like, oh, we're all in this together. This is affecting everyone. It's like, well, yeah, but at the same time, you're not going to go broke and you've got a massive house to run around in. Like you don't have any. You don't have any real problems to worry about. It kind of sucks for you, but that's the extent of it.
There's always mental health.
Yeah.
Sam, I wanted to get your opinion.
Fucking hell, boys. That's a drastic increase in volume as well. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, there's two of these coming your way, mate. This is the first question.
Nice. It's all about me. This is my dream.
Homeschooling, what's your opinion?
It's fucking hard, man.
Do you think that people should bother? Because teaching is, they should stick with the curriculums.
No. I think that the teachers of, me, myself included, we're all fucking superheroes. There's mate, this is a whole fucking podcast. There's loads of problems. Like parents, the biggest thing we've had is parents going, how the fuck do you do any of this? How do you actually convey information? And also, so that's like one thing.
Yeah, I think most teachers can't fucking do it, let alone.
Well, yeah. Legit.
People. Yeah, absolutely.
A good 30, 20%. Let's be nice. A good 20% just of teachers literally cannot teach. Because it is like a fucking skill and an art.
It's hard, and there's still teething problems with how do you do it effectively.
Yeah.
And it's there's a lot of like factors to it. Yeah.
And this is a whole fucking podcast. The problem with teaching is like it's so personal. So there's no way that you can just say this is a set of rules, because everyone learns differently, everyone teaches differently. But like we've had the main complaints we've had are, well, not complaints, the main feedback we've had are, fucking hell, this is hard. Second one is, oh Jesus, there's so much to do. I'm working from home and cannot educate my kid. Third one is that there's too much stuff that has been given to them. So I think this is a problem, is teachers are usually inundated with about 300,000 things at a time. You've always got things going on. Like in a lesson, there's so many fucking variables and in between that. So you never get a chance to sit down and focus on one thing.
We have to deal with things like being a role model and like psychology kind of stuff. It seems to me that a good portion of your job has nothing to do with the content of what you're actually teaching. It's loads of other things.
Subject knowledge is literally like 10%. Like subject knowledge and conveying information is like 10%. But
you've got to mold people. You've got to create character, personality, ethics. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's such a hard task.
The thing I was trying to get to is like, so now you don't have all these things, even if it's not, let's say it's not like being a role model, like forging personality. Let's say it's just someone saying, where's a pen? Where's a guitar pick? Where's a thing? Where's a keyboard? Help me with this. Do you know what I mean? It's like all these little tasks that stop you from being focused. So now that all those are removed, teachers are sat at home and there's actually like a great sense of guilt. So I think a lot of teachers are looking around, and this is me, myself included, you're looking around, looking at people without jobs, and you're sitting at home still receiving your salary, and you go, oh shit, I better earn this. Therefore, because we're not interrupted and we do have this sort of like guilt of needing to provide like work to do and needing to provide learning, because teachers are fucking sad cases. We actually just do want kids to learn shit. That's literally our entire purpose for fucking being at the moment. And it's like, because we're not interrupted, we can just put it all out. So that actually then increases a huge amount of stress onto the kids at home.
Yeah.
So much is lost in translation. Parents can't pick up the slack. And every day they wake up, look on their, like, we got a system called class charts, which shows all the homeworks. They look at a big list and just have a freak out. So I think the best thing we can do is just give them some things to do, but then just like get the parents to be like, fucking, this is how you peel a carrot. This is how you wash clothes. Yeah. This is how you, I don't know, fucking send a letter. That's an outdated one.
No, well, I mean, I actually had a list here in my notes, but fucking, I had how to write a check, and then I wrote that. I was like, who the fuck does that?
I don't know how to write a check. I literally don't.
I've only had to write one check before that. I lived in a house share at university, and the landlord, he had like a fucking OBE in like shoe design or something, and he was this old geezer. And he was like, yes, just send me the rent by check. And I was like, what the fuck are you on? Like, I've never had to do that since, and I don't think I ever will. But like, I think my mum sometimes gets old customers that send in checks, but it's a novelty, isn't it? But yeah, anyway, I thought like gardening, how to grow and care for plants, and cooking, baking, reading.
Like each little fucking shitty topic I'm touching with is like fucking many rabbit holes.
I want to do a podcast teaching at some point.
Yeah, it'd be good. There's so much that you can't do teaching at school, but then we often have more contact with pupils than parents do. There was a great like podcast I was listening to called like The First Teachers, and about how much schooling used to be done at home, and it's just like suddenly that's just like completely gone. It's like kids can't tie their shoelaces unless they're taught how to do it at nursery school, and it's like that's just wrong. The way that we think about paring off teaching and just being like, here be homing, here be teaching, it's like completely wrong. It's just like a massive divide that just sort of, the fact that there's like a home and a school life should not be, if that makes sense. They should both be like a process of learning and a process of growing that continues in both.
Yeah, there should definitely be some crossover from my perspective. I mean, we always complain about not knowing certain things when we come out of school as well. And it's like, where do we pin that blame? Like, I
could have done with some of these skills about 7 or 8 years earlier in my life.
Yeah, basically.
Wide, doughy-eyed and naive going into sort of like your later teen years and 20s isn't very helpful a lot of the time.
But also it's just like the capacity for wanting to learn. The amount of people that are sort of around our age, even in our friends group, that are now just like literally recreational learners. Like if I'm doing the washing up, I'm listening to Dan Carlin Have you ever heard the Hardcore History podcasts? They're fucking outstanding. They would do like a 4-hour podcast on the First World War and just go through it. The amount of people who do like passive learning when they're like, I don't know, driving to work, listening to podcasts, when they're like doing the washing up, listening to like YouTube, like the whole Jordan Peterson thing took off massively. Or like Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson sold out arenas because people are now so into like learning later in life.
Yeah, audiobooks, things, podcasts. Yeah.
I think it's fantastic, but also just like now that people are developing that will to learn, it's just like you can't underestimate how that is not there in children. Our whole culture towards making school an adversarial place is just completely wrong. Like the way our society looks at school is just, there's so many fucking problems with it.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm just conscious of time a little bit. Well, I wanted to get your opinion again here on this Stoicism and how that can help people.
Did I tell you my yardstick for bad experience? Viktor Frankl.
You did. Well, you said that in the Flow podcast. You were saying like,
okay, so
there's acute suffering, there's really bad shit, and like the Holocaust. And if you're not experiencing that, apparently you can't complain. Which I do kind of agree with, but I think it's maybe a little bit cynical.
The example I give is like Viktor Frankl in the middle of a German winter, working outside, starving to death with no shoes on, wearing a shirt, like working outside for 12 hours. And I'll use that on myself and be like, oh, what, there's washing up to do. And I'm like, oh, I'm too tired to do it. And I'll be like, you think like you can't do the washing up, yet Viktor Frankl, and already by that point I'm just like, fuck's sake, now I have to do it. So it's like, I think it's really good, it's really useful to have a powerful benchmark for suffering, so that you just go, I think you're right there, so that if you have something you can go, oh well, is it that? No, well, I could probably do that.
Go Holocaust or go home.
Well, yeah, but like compared to that, this is nothing, absolutely nothing.
Can you extrapolate that basically forever? Okay, so have you ever had to do anything in your life more difficult than the Holocaust? Probably not.
yeah,
so you
exactly.
You just
constantly use
any time I have to impart suffering upon myself in any way. Well, it wasn't as bad as the Holocaust. It wasn't as bad as Jesus being crucified alive. Yeah, I could probably do that, and then you just never stop.
The Catholics have it, didn't they? Like I don't say every, but a lot of religions have like a benchmark for suffering, where they just go, well, compared to that, is what you're going through that bad? And it's like Marcus Aurelius has got that line where he talks about, ask yourself this question: what is there now in this work that I cannot stand? And you'll be ashamed to admit it. When you look at it and you ask, like, what is this thing that I'm pretending is really the worst thing ever? What is it that I actually can't deal with? And you go, oh, there's actually nothing. There's nothing in this situation that I cannot deal with.
I agree in essence, but people have committed suicide over smaller things. And I understand it's because they don't have that benchmark, or they can't access it, or there are certain things that are going wrong in that process, definitely. But
or maybe they're experiencing something worse than the benchmark. Maybe their subjective experience is worse than that.
That's what I was trying to get at. Yeah. So objectively, I agree with you, but then there's the subjective quality, which, I just want to get that out there.
I'm not ruling that out. I'm not saying like if your arm's not broken, then you should do it.
Yeah, it's this internal conversation. Yeah.
So you're just finding you're discovering your own benchmark. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, yeah, it's an internal yardstick, and it's like your boy Marcus Aurelius says, like the only thing that we actually fear is the fact that this suffering will never end. I remember Ham Saras talking about that in the teachings of the Buddha, where it's like you can bear pain, but it's like in that moment you've already borne the pain, if that makes sense. So you've already dealt with the maximum amount of pain that is happening in that situation. Your only fear is the fact that pain will never end. And as soon as you just like focus on the instance, focus on the moment and sort of move up past that, you stop or remove the fear of the fact that it will never end. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think one thing that a lot of people are doing at the moment is consuming a lot of media.
That's literally the worst thing you could do, I think. Because you're just putting your brain, you're not actually dealing with thoughts. That's literally just like burying things underneath layers.
Yeah, like at this time, people I think are dubious about consuming anything non-government, and I really get that. It's important to get facts straight. It's important to avoid fake news or the rest, especially with scams going on and stuff. But I think that's the reason why similar channels like us, or probably better channels than us, more accurately,
no such thing,
aren't creating like COVID related content, and I haven't actually seen much philosophy on the subject, and I think people aren't interested in it either, because I think people are glued to looking at the death toll every day. And I just kind of want to communicate this idea that I think it can be helpful, but I think also an overconsumption of the same news over and over again is what breeds anxiety. You know, we have to make the most of situations. I mean, you guys know fucking Sisyphus rolling the boulder up the hill.
Mate, legit, yeah.
The myth of Sisyphus, right? We'll get into this when we start exploring more philosophy, because this is apparently a philosophy podcast. Sisyphus is rolling the boulder up the hill. He's cursed to do this for eternity. And Albert Camus says we have to imagine that Sisyphus is happy because he can't spend all his energy trying to control the things that he can't. You know, you could literally only do what you can. You can't control the pandemic. You can't control everything else. You can only control your reaction to it.
And that's a really important thing. You can 100% control your reaction to it.
Focus on small things and focus on the things you are more in your control. The more in your control the thing you're focusing on, the better. You'll be a lot better off.
There is so much choice in emotion. It's like if you're angry, you're actually choosing to be angry.
I know, but understanding that is a slow process. You can't just tell someone that. Yeah.
yeah, I get it. But it's like your boy Ham Saris, when he does all this meditation shit, he'll be like, if you actually focus on the energy of like anger or like being ashamed or like being hurt, the actual half-life of it is very small. But what you do if you're being angry, or if you're like, I was literally like this the other day, you actually just go through a phase of just re-prodding the fire and just keeping that going during the day. And it's like, as soon as you start to notice that sort of pattern, you can kind of break it. But it's the hard part is like noticing it.
Yeah. I think it's recognizing some silver linings in what is obviously mostly a fucking negative experience, but
there is so much positive. It'd be great if everyone could just like sit down in a room with themselves and just like think and just like actually be, and stop like repressing things and just actually like go through, like, do you know what I mean? Just like open the email box of like past thoughts and just sort of go through and just figure out what needs to be sorted out.
Yeah, delete the spam.
Yeah, literally, mate. Fucking send those big dick pills back.
The control thing seems to divide people, because like for me, I'm very much in the camp that if I can't control it, I don't really worry about it. But for some people, it's the very lack of control that causes them to just spin the fuck out. And like,
yeah, Stoicism is really trying to get at those people and present new arguments and new ways of saying, look, you should really kind of rethink this idea. And yeah, it's as much psychology as it is philosophy.
It's all mind angles, isn't it? It's just literally your perspective on things can change how you deal with it so much.
If you want to find out more about Stoicism, you can look at the 2 Beers Until Phrónēsis Stoicism episode.
Yeah, me and Sam did a good one. I mean, I wouldn't listen to the rest of series 1. It's fucking shite.
No, it was good. That was good fun.
I'm going to get onto the last bit now because my dinner's cooking. So,
what are you having?
Noodles.
Corona on chips.
Oh.
Right. So obviously the effects are going to be wide-reaching. It could potentially herald a completely new type of society in a lot of ways. Maybe not straight away, but the immediate effects are going to be largely negative. But I think it's interesting to speculate about what changes could come, because I was thinking about all the great empires, and they've always been shaped by disease. I mean, you look at the Roman and Byzantine empires; it contributed to their downfall. Civilizations are always kind of holistically affected and changed at the precipice of a pandemic. So you take the plague, for instance. kind of led to the establishment of all these different boards and government powers and practices that shape the modern world, really. Like quarantining, as we know it today, was basically handed down to us from the European experience of the plague. I think it was Foucault, actually, who wrote about this. Basically, every inch of movement inside and outside of towns was segmented and controlled for the first time in history. It's like unprecedented shit. So in every street in Europe, people had to like roll call by yelling out their health. The penalty for which would be lying. If you lied, you get your fucking head chopped off.
Nice.
Yeah, as if they didn't have enough problems to deal with about 40% of Europe being entirely wiped out, and yet they're doing that already. There's going to be no one left. Yeah, I think those sort of mortality rates, it's an entirely different systematic shift that we'd experience in more, established democratic societies today.
It's a mad case of order rising to meet chaos.
Your boy.
Similarly, like diseases have shaped like Indian politics, and I think Foucault actually says that like the Black Death basically turned society into a lab, like where everything could be controlled for the first time ever in history, and we've never really lost that sense of control as far as the state's concerned. And it's really interesting, kind of.
Yeah, but Foucault's got he's tad biased, though, isn't he?
Well, yeah, but I think there's something.
He's a tad biased.
But yeah, like the idea of healthcare being in the interests of the people in charge, I think that's a good thing. Because they're the ones who actually sort it out. Indoor plumbing and drinking water, fucking quite a good fucking thing.
Just a dose of daily leeches, just drop them all over your arms, you'll be fine. Right, it's rain in no time.
Well, I think our society's already got like little bits of socialism built into it. I think they're already in like the places where they need to be, like you said, with the NHS and like water and stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, I think the effects of this particular virus won't be understood for a long time, maybe even years. But I don't know. What do you guys think will happen? I think personally, it's going to be like a newfound respect for simple things existing in the home and like online communication.
I would love to think that was the case.
Yeah, go on.
But
Zach,
realistically, in practice, I think a lot of things will just go back to normal. In a few months' time, we'll go back to our little cozy hobbit holes, and a lot of people completely blissfully ignorant of what happened a few months before. And I think mentally, a lot of people will only respond as a last resort if they kind of have to think, oh no, I have to do it at the 11th hour, because otherwise a lot of time you cannot just encourage people to change.
I don't think it's about encouraging people to change. I think people will just naturally change some behaviors. I mean, the economy's certainly going to be affected, and I mean, we're all spending less, right? And I think to some degree we've all kind of come up with some degree of, oh well, shit, I don't actually have to spend as much as I was because I'm not now, and I'm in that sense I'm doing fine.
Yeah, I'd like to think that a lot of people will be spending a lot less money on tat effectively that they don't need, and materialism will hopefully take a bit of a dive. But
building on that, I'm not going to bring any actual numbers, but there have been surveys done fairly recently which indicates that we're sort of migrating towards, in my opinion, not a totally cashless, but much less cash circulating type of society. And this is very likely to have accelerated that. There's quite a lot of early indicators that suggest that people are going to be using a lot less cash in future. So this is probably due to kind of it's slightly safer to pay by contactless at the moment because of the reduced like interaction. But at the same time, a lot of people have realized like, oh, I can actually do all my banking online. A lot of people are sort of stuck in ways of paying with cash, and that's kind of what they're used to. And now they've kind of been forced not to do that. I think that could be a habit that will change as a result of this. I'm sort of cynical about a lot of the other behavioural bits. I kind of agree with Zach in that I think people's memories are blissfully short with this sort of thing, although it seems really, really quite dramatic at the moment.
I tend to agree on a macro level. I think a lot of society won't change any significant, but I don't know, history does tell us other things. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was big change. But it certainly seems unlikely based on our experience. Yeah, I think you're right.
It's really hard to say. I mean, Yeah, I think the other interesting one actually is the whole climate change deal. So again, I can't really remember, but there's some stats suggesting that, you know, like the ozone layer is repairing itself in places and climate emissions are decreasing for the first time since whenever as a result of this, which shouldn't be surprising, but it does kind of point to the fact that, you know, this can be done. Like we can still do particular things to reduce the effects of climate change.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Again, I'm not really sure how that's going to pan out going forward, because the reason that the climate change is, or the effects of climate change have been reduced because of some pretty dramatic measures. So it's not like they're easily replicable. But I just think it kind of paints the point that this is a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be very hard to replicate those kind of levels again.
Yeah.
The billions of people using the fossil fuels and...
Yeah, it's just interesting to see it can be done. You'll never convince like people who, for example, don't believe in climate change. That will mean nothing to them. But for people that you know, there might have been quite a lot of people who were like, well, it's kind of already done. There's nothing we can do about it. And this is saying, well, actually, this is within human control to some degree.
Do you think the society will commemorate this whole time in any way? Do you think we'll have... It's a stretch to think we'll have a national holiday.
Probably not. I don't think so.
I heard a rumour of someone who said something down the road the other day, right?
Down the orchard.
But there could be a replacement due to extenuating circumstances of maybe a new bank holiday or something.
Well, that's what I was just
Introduced to the
thinking.
nurses and doctors.
But we don't have that.
I've heard that somewhere. When have we not got one? January. Just chuck it in January. Why not? It's terrible. Nobody's got any money after Christmas. Just put on like the second week of January.
5,000 years later, we're going to have a lot of similar events. Every fucking day is going to be a national holiday.
I find a national holiday a strange way of marking this because, one, it didn't happen suddenly on a particular day, and two, is it not enough to remember the time when we were all fucking locked in our houses for months on end? And
neither did the two wars, but we day commemorating those.
Or the Black Plague.
Yeah,
then the Black Death literally lasts for years.
Well, it never really went away. It was affecting people for hundreds of years.
I guess, like, yeah, with wars and stuff, wars. Well, most wars have an official end date.
Yeah, have an armistice date. Yeah,
yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Whereas this is sort of, it's happened quite quickly, but it hasn't happened on a day, and it won't peter out on a day.
The day they start officially publicly using the first vaccine, I don't know, put that as a date.
That's not a bad shout, yeah.
The whole remembering the war thing is, it's less like remembering the war. It's more like, remember this, we don't fucking want this to happen again. It's like when people remember the Holocaust, they go like, it's not, the Holocaust was bad. It was like, this was a thing. If we remember, like, you don't repeat the things you remember. You seem to repeat the things that you forget. So I thought that was the whole point about it. It's like remembering the First World War, remembering the Second World War, so that we realised the massive price that it costs, so that it wouldn't be done again. No, so maybe fat nose.
But it's interesting to see how the vaccines are progressing, because the typical time frame for vaccine development, like from inception to human deployment, is 2 to 5 years. And like we're already in human trials for some things, which is, it shouldn't be understated that is fucking exceptional.
That's really quick.
Possibly in the case of the Zika virus or something, but I don't think we've ever really had anything quite this urgent where we've had to accelerate and cut corners so much, and everyone's kind of okay with it because it's such extenuating circumstances.
It's funny you said the Zika virus or like Ebola, like any of these things that didn't happen in first world countries.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to shoot like nowish. Does anybody else have anything positive before we finish?
David Attenborough is doing geography lessons. That's cool.
That is pretty cool, to be fair.
That's pretty cool.
Mate, we need to fucking isolate David Attenborough immediately.
I know.
Mate, he's already in the jungles of Baja Tutu.
I just need to watch like Blue Planet again and just
Planet Earth as well. Yeah,
that's probably like the ultimate zen. If you're feeling stressed, just watch a David Attenborough. You can't feel stressed after watching a David Attenborough. That's
because it reminds you that you're like, it's just a nice reminder of nature, isn't it? You're just like, we live in a fucking massive world, so my problems aren't that big.
Yeah, I'm hoping some British mammals come back.
Yeah.
Fucking all that shit like minks and stoats and
woolly mammoth.
Are you fucking mate? This is me and Nye are gonna have to have a fucking intervention with you, aren't we? about fucking. Let's bring back the bears.
I don't want fucking bears.
Do you know how long it took us to hunt them all to extinction?
Yeah, we didn't hunt minks and stoats.
I don't know, mate. Seen a few minxes and Jackson Ross and Warren. Like,
On that
Anyone's
note,
fair game in there. Yeah, we actually finished on a negative note by having gone over the existence of that nightclub.
Right, anyway, I'll I'm gonna have my dinner now, but I might see you guys for poker later. All right, cheers, man.
enjoy your din. See you in a bit.
in a bit. On a side note, I've got flour in my cupboard that expired like 8 months ago, but it looks fine. Is
Flour doesn't
It's
expire.
dry as fuck, mate. It's dry as fuck. Do it.
yeah.
It turns into mice, doesn't it?
Legit.
I went to someone's house. I won't mention his name, but it was it's no one on here. But it was about 7 years out of date pasta, but it was good. I mean, it looked like it'd been eaten.
Who the fuck was that, Grebo?
Not me.
What does
me.
it rhyme with?
Flan.
Flan.
Oh, right. Man.
Yeah, I was like the way this person has one fucking name, like Cher. It's just like Flan. You're like,
Wow, does that mean we did a thing?
no, it means Connor's not happy with how bad the podcast has gone, so we're now trapped here until we do a good one.
I'm gonna be sacked. I'll be sacked, then I'll be re-employed for Series 3. There'll be 3 beers until blackout.